There's 100 things that I love about Zimbabwe and the people, so I guess I have to pick my favorites. Zimbabwean people are naturally just very friendly. I don't know what it is that makes them so, but they are polite and they're willing to take time out of their day to speak with you. There's always exceptions. There's always rude people, and there's always people wherever you go in this world that will, not be polite. But as a whole, like, the country is friendly, and they smile more than I was used to. It was fantastic to see. If you ever go into a house, it's just culture that they offer you something to eat. When you talk about the women in Zimbabwe, you call them mamas, if they are moms, So like this mama here, which writing home is always funny to say, because my mother goes, "What are you talking about? I'm your mother." Like, well, sorry, mom. This mama, they do adopt you, basically. They treat you like their sons, and they'll call you their sons. They'll say, "My son, come here," and for me, I loved that. It made me feel so welcome and loved. I felt like I belonged, when people would say things like that. And they would discipline me like a mother would as well. When I do something wrong, they tell me. They're very straightforward with that, which is so entertaining when it's not me. When it would be my companion getting scolded, I'd sit there and be like, "You should have known better, elder. Now your mom is going to be angry with you." When you go to a funeral, it's tradition, I guess, for everybody to come, and the family provides food for everybody. I guess it would be normally like in the village, but here it would be like anybody in the neighborhood would come in, and we'd be fed and sing songs, and they would talk about the life of the person. And while it was mournful, it was also an occasion to be together, and it was a very unified feeling. So I guess overall, I would say Zimbabweans are very good at remembering that we all come from smaller groups, whether it be a tribe or a village or anything like that. It's unified. We are a family. The classic Zimbabwean dish, I would assume most people would agree, is sadza and chicken relish and vegetables. So sadza is basically the staple diet, because they grow lots of corn there. They call it maize. Not that big of a stretch. But then they have grinding mills where you take your dried maize, grind it into flour, and so then you have lots of what's called milli meal. And you take that, you boil it, you stir it up, and it becomes basically a big paste. And some people like it really hard, some people like it really soft. But regardless, when you eat it, you are putting your fingers into burning hot lava. And so you got to be careful when you're first starting. Every green missionary burns his fingers, I think, at least a little bit, because they do not know. So basically, you take that, and it's basically I'm saying basically a lot. You're taking something the consistency of Play-Doh, and you take it, and you can make it into either a ball or into a little scoop, and then you scoop up some gravy, which has pieces of meat or vegetables, and you take that and you eat that, and it's absolutely delicious. The first time you have it, it's the strangest experience, but eventually you grow to love it. And then they have some sort of meat, and almost always chicken, and they know how to fry chicken there. It's not Kentucky chicken, it's not Southern fried chicken, but it is a really tasty way that they do it. And then there's a thing called covo, which is a vegetable that grows in a stalk out of the ground. You'll see it being grown in every single person's garden. And as the leaves come off, they just pluck the leaves, and then it continues to grow up and up. So it starts off, on the ground, and eventually it'll be this tall, and it'll just have a bare stalk with like 5 or 6 leaves at the top that they'll pick. And they chop it and fry that. So you use the sadza to basically dip it and pick up vegetables or relish and the meat and eat that. And when I say relish, I don't mean what they put on hot dogs here. I mean, relish is basically any meat or gravy that they have with the food. So that's your basic meal. Sometimes people will like kapenta, and kapenta is these little tiny dried fish that I never really enjoyed. I ate it, and I always was very grateful when someone offered it to me. And I don't know, but I guess you compare that to the chicken, and I definitely had my preference. I think the hardest part about Kapento was knowing that they had eyes that are looking at me, but it was great. And I was offered rabbit many times, and guinea pig once or twice. The most extreme ones, one was maklimbi or Madora, which is the caterpillars. And so these caterpillars grow by the thousands on some of these trees. And they call them Mopane worms as well. And they'll fry those up, and you'll eat those just like you would with the chicken. And I remember the first time I had those, I pick one up out of the bowl, and I'm looking at it. And I'm just going, you are ugly. I'm going to eat you. But and so you pop it in, and once you try and forget what it is that's in your mouth, it's delicious. It's just the face is what got me. And there's something called itshwa, which is these flying termites that during a certain time of the year, kids will stand around these little termite holes, and they'll cover them because termites will come out at night. And so if you cover it, they think it's nighttime because the daylight's no longer shining down. And so then they'll start crawling out by the hundreds, and the flying ones are the ones you want to eat. The ones that are on the ground have angry little pincers that they hurt. And I didn't know that. And I was trying to pick them up, and the kids are like, no, Marungu, no. And, I got pricked pretty good. Those things do not let go. And so they'll grab the termites out of the air. Sometimes they'll pull off the wings, and they'll stick them in a bag, and they'll fry those up and eat those. Or you can just eat it right out of the air if you want, which I did because the kids are like, do it. So I was like, okay. So that was good. Zimbabweans like to eat parts of the chicken that we're not used to, like chicken feet and chicken neck. While it does take some getting used to, it is very edible and it's very tasty. Once you've gotten over your preconceived notions of saying feet, but they're pretty good. Rice is another big one. Rice and beans, basically anything that comes big bulk bags and can be. They come up with really creative ways to eat it as well. The biscuits there, the cookies they call biscuits are. You can buy really nice ones, and then you can buy the really bulk bags that are basically like, just flavor on flour. And I actually bought those all the time because it was something I would just sit there and study with. The food now I'm really hungry. I miss that food really badly. One of the drinks there is called mazoe, and it's fantastic because it's basically just syrup that you're supposed to dilute, which I did not know. And so my companion's like, hey, pour yourself a glass of mazoe and pour me some as well. I went, sure. And I went to the kitchen, and I'm brand new. Pour us both a glass and go back in, and he grabs it and he looks at it and he knows what I just did. And he just looks at me and he watches me as I take it, and I take a sip, and 5 times the amount of concentration that I should be getting of sugar, and my brain just exploded, and I spit it out. I'm like, whew. I swear I could smell colors at that point. And, and he laughs and he's like, you're supposed to dilute it. Yeah, now you tell me. But occasionally you'll start craving that stuff once again. So it's good. I miss the Zimbabwean food a lot. Getting food is pretty cool because lots of people are entrepreneurs, and so they'll have little stands outside their houses or on the street somewhere. So if you ever need fresh tomatoes or fresh vegetables, they're right there. Like a lot of the time we'll just poke our head out the window to a little kid that knows us, and we're like, hey, and we'll give them $1, like, go get us some tomatoes, and they'll run and they'll grab you some tomatoes and they'll bring them back, because kids are used to their moms having them do that all the time. So it's really fun. You feel really important. Like, hey kid, little one, and they're like, yes, and they run and they get you something, and then if you're nice, you'll give them a sweet or something like that. So living in Zimbabwe, one of the places I lived for about 7 months was in what used to be the servants' quarters of a much bigger house. So we lived in the little side apartments, kind of like a shack on the outskirts. So it had like a small bathroom, and it had a kitchen and a bedroom, and that's all you need. The flooring there, carpets are not that popular just because vacuums aren't that big of a thing there. Electricity and water will come and go very frequently, and so you can't really rely on that. So most of the time people just sweep, and so carpets aren't really that common of a thing. So what they'll do is they'll apply this stuff called cobra, which is like kind of a floor wax that if you sit on it too soon after applying it, you will get a nice red streaks on your pants that I laughed at my companion several times when he was new, because he didn't know better. Because water and electricity come and go, most of us would store bottles of water all around the house, so that if water goes for a few days, then we'd still be able to drink. We'd probably do really poor excuses of bucket baths. Although bucket baths can be the best. If you have water but you don't have electricity, you take the cold water and you put you boil some of it on the gas stoves that we had, and then you pour it in with some cold water, so you make it nice and a good temperature for you, and then you just go into the shower, you get a cup, and you just splash it on yourself, rinse it out. It's actually not nearly as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. I thought about that going, man, I've been spoiled with my showers at home. Like my nice big water heater, and then transportation, like into your area or into town, they have these things called convoys. And it's basically like, I think of the equivalent of a VW bus, like you'll have that hippies used to have here in like the 60s and whatnot, or my dad used to have. And you fit 25 to maybe 28 people, you cram them into one of those vans. And there it's interesting because you've got like 4 to a row that's maybe like that wide. And so if you're getting in there and then you see this large person come in, you go, uh-oh, it's going to get tight in here real quick. If you're claustrophobic, it takes a little while to get used to. And if otherwise, it's a ton of fun. And the combi drivers will just drive around and they'll be yelling what their destination is. So they'll be like, towny town, town. And so you'll wave them in and they'll come and they'll pick you up, and you give them the money for how far I guess you're going to go. And then you'll jump in there, and it's really competitive. And then you'll go in there, and there's just this hub of hundreds of these bands just all yelling, saying, "This is going to Mtumbani and Soxile, Bulawayo." So it was really cool. Hard part about that is when you go shopping, and then you have to take all your food, and you basically you can't buy too much at a time because you have to transport that back on the combi where there's already no room, and take that all the way back to your apartment. Then they use American dollars there now, with inflation and everything that went. Zimbabwe had a hard time with currency for a while, so now they use American dollars and South African rand, and they'll use pula from Botswana or anything that they know what the exchange rate is, and you can use that for money. But because bills are a lot easier to transport than coins, because those are really heavy, you don't really get change very often unless it's in South African rand. So a lot of the time you'll buy something and then you'll get lollipops or candy in change. So you always have a few lollipops in your backpack. If you're ever buying something on the market, you have to barter down, because you have to realize they're working in a marketplace. They know they're gonna try and get what they can. I bought something one time, and my companion looked at me and he just goes, "You paid about 4 times what you should have paid for that." Bummer. So that's how it goes. It is a former British colony. It was called Rhodesia. It's similar to British accents, but it's definitely its own version because it's a combination of African accent and English. And so let's see if I can still do this. It would, when I would meet people, they're like, "Elder, how are you today?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine, sister. How are you?" "Oh, it is so good to see you." Coming from North Carolina, I didn't quite talk like this, but I would speak, and my words would run together sometimes, and it was just a simple Southern American accent. So going there, no one would be able to understand me because I would speak too quickly in that accent, and so I had to learn to stop and enunciate all of my syllables. And this is how I spoke for 2 years, to the point when I called home for Christmas, and my family goes, "What is wrong with the way you're speaking?" And I went, what are you talking about? "You're talking like this." Well, I had to, because that was the only way that I could be understood. I guess when you meet people on the street, you go, "Hi, how are you?" And they say, "I'm fine, how are you?" And so lots of kids, when they see you on the street, all they've been taught to say is, "How are you?" and "I'm fine." So they'll follow you for 20 minutes. How are you? How are you? How are you? And you go, I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you? Like, okay, all right, this is not getting anywhere, but it's entertaining to see them do that. Sometimes it's frustrating, but most of the time it's entertaining. The accent for Shona is fantastic as well. That's pretty much the main language of Zimbabwe. Most people are Shona, with one big city, Bulawayo, being ndebele, and they speak that, and so Shona is the main language for most of the people. They'd say, "How are you?" So they say "Makadi," and you clap your hands as like in this way as a sign of respect. And so Makadi, which is "How are you?" and you say "Tiribo," which is I'm fine. I think I might be mixing languages. Let me think. This is gonna be bad. People are gonna make fun of me. But people will say "Shop shop," which is sharp sharp, but because of the accent, it sounds like SHOP. It just means like cool cool. Ndebele, the other language, I remember a little bit better just because I was really passionate about learning that one because it was fun for me to speak. And so you say "Salibonani," which is, how are you? And you say "Yebo." Yebo is yes. But you say "Yebo" for a lot of different things. You say yes to they say hello and you go yes. So "Salibonani," "Yebo unjani baba." You go "Niapila unjani mama," and you can saying I'm fine, how are you? And occasionally if you're speaking to someone respectful, you change it up and you say it in a more I guess appropriate way. My tabasa in Shona, I think, is probably one of the coolest ways to say thank you. In Malawi Chichewa, you say "Zikomo," which I think is also really cool. The fun things about ndebele is there's some words that click. I was asking them to teach me, and they say, okay, say "Kumukatu get ukatu." I go, what? And they say "Kumukatu get ukatu." Like, I'm like, okay, how about "Ama po?" I'm like, no. And so it's a lot of fun. It's hard to get used to. You have to learn that when it's written down, Q is, and X is, and C is, and even within there's like different ways of saying those. And another syllable is hl. It's HL, so it's hlope. So you're like, I'm hlope, and it sounds like you got a lot of spit, in the side of your mouth. And usually they love it. And they go, look at this Marungu, speaking Shona, or look at this Kiwa. And so it was a lot of fun. I loved speaking those languages. Eventually, when you get so into it that your accent starts to disappear and you're speaking theirs, they love it even more. Now, I loved Shona and ndebele, Chewa. No, they were fun to speak. The first thing I would want to say is just how much I miss being around all of the amazing people that I did meet when I was in Zimbabwe and Malawi. I honestly left for my mission as a boy, and all of you took care of me and strengthened me and made me into a better man. I think about the people, you guys, that I met every single day, the ones that watched me struggle with learning how to say "Maitabasa" and "Salibonani" and "Zikomo" and just watched me go from Elder Skoro and Elder Ski and Elder S and all the little nicknames you guys had. And I love you guys so much, and I think about you and I pray about you often. I pray that one day soon I'll be able to come back and see how you're doing in your lives. But until then, I just have to hope that my information from Facebook and from phone calls every now and then are going to be enough. I called many of you my babas and my mamas, and that's true. You are my family. You're my parents. You're my brothers and sisters. And I was happiest in my life when I was with you. So know that I love you and I miss you.